Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris, and today we are going to be working on the expansion table once more. And so pretty much what you'll see right now is a bunch of open space. And so with that being said, I am starting to finalize the plan for this middle section right here. So that's not what we're going to do in this video. Today we are actually going to continue working in this corner right here, because in a recent video we actually went ahead and made this entire module right here, and this can easily come apart and is its own section. And so what we're going to do today is we are going to make another section that's going to go on this corner right here. So before we get started, we need a base plate, and so that is what this is for right here. So I'm going to unbag this, I guess. I'm going to rip the paper off and then recycle it, and then we are going to go ahead and get started on planning out this area right here. My tentative plan is to have the rock work come around here, and then the train track go over it, and then the water kind of follow the rocks. That might change though. I don't know if I want to have a retaining wall or not. So let me get that opened and then we can get started on making a plan. Okay, so this is a very rough plan, but I'm going to explain it and then hopefully it'll make a little bit of sense. And so basically, this is just to show that the rock work is going to come down from this way and it's going to curve around the bend here, and then it's going to curve this way as well. And I want there to be a little bit of overlap in front of the retaining wall. I think we're going to go with a retaining wall. That probably makes the most sense. And then this is just a remnant of the old city layout, so just ignore that. But this is just a good placeholder to kind of gauge where I want the wall to be. I think I want it to be about here. So then that leaves me about 30 studs, right around the 28 to 32 stud mark, something like that, of beach and also water. So it's going to look like this, and it's just going to be coming around the corner here, and it's going to be a little bit wider. So I want the water to be, instead of that big, I think that's maybe about 16 studs, something like that. I want it to be closer to 24, and then we can have a little bit of beach, and then the beach can kind of grow as we get a little bit further this way, and then we can make a little staircase going down from the top level, so then everything is actually connected. I think that's probably a good idea, but that is a different video. That's a different module. We're not going to worry about that today. So with that being said, we are going to get started on this one, and then we also need to figure out the train track going over top of this. I have yet to figure out a bridge design that I want out here. I don't know if that's going to happen in today's video, but I'm going to start with the landscape first, and then we'll worry about the train track later. All right, so I've been pretty busy here, and I figured I would start this module off the same way I started the other one, which is starting with the train track, actually. So I went ahead and I put the 16 by 16 in, and then the train track on top. And then the other two segments are going to have to be built separately with the actual bridge and the retaining wall itself. So saving that for later on in the video, but right now what I'm doing is going around and making the beach, and this is pretty much done here. I wanted a little bit more sand out here, so that is that pretty much. And then I just need to go in and add the water, or the different shades of blue for the water, and then that's gonna be pretty much good to go, and then we can build up. I'm pretty happy with how the sand is right now. I'm thinking the retaining wall is gonna be back here somewhere, maybe even 1 or 2 studs back from that. So I have some room to work with, which is good to see. And so with that being said, I think we're just going to continue right on. I know that this corner of the 16 by 16 doesn't have support yet, but that's because I am still trying to figure out the rock placement, and then if I can use the rock as part of the support for this, or if I'm going to need a separate one. So that's kind of what I'm working with right now. And so with that being said, I'm going to try and figure that out right now. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've done most of this side here, and I think this is starting to shape up pretty nicely here. I just need to add some of the plate in on the top and also some of the support structure under here. But for the most part, the rest of this is all accounted for. It's just these last 2 columns here, and then that is pretty much that. So I'm pretty happy with how this is turning out, and then we just need to round out the corner, which is probably going to be pretty tough, but I think we can make that work. And then I can just add this in for all of the extra support, and then we can start the retaining wall over here. I think I might actually do the retaining wall first and then build this around it, just so it kind of makes a little bit more sense. But I'm not totally sure about that yet though, so let me get back to work on this and then finish this section, and then we can start working over here and try and figure out this whole thing. All right, so this is what I've been up to. This is what I got so far. This is the retaining wall. Obviously, this is all it is at the moment, because the rest of it is going to be on those other base plates, which we don't have yet. So that is why it's just 2 arches wide. But I think this looks pretty good, and I tried to add the rocks in it too to make it look like it's kind of built on top of the rocks as opposed to being a clean cut between the two. So I think that helps make it look a little bit more natural, and I added a couple masonry bricks just to give it a weathered look. And then I also added a snot brick so I can go in and add some foliage later. And then I also rounded out this corner here, and I think this looks pretty good. So here is a step back. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that looks pretty good. I just need to round out this top section right there and then push these couple pieces down properly. But that is pretty much that there, and I think this is looking pretty good. And so that is all I've gotten up to so far. I'm not going super in depth on how I'm making this because I did that on that other module. So if you want to see that, be sure to click the video in the top right just to see everything in greater detail. The process is totally the same. And so basically all it is under here is just a bunch of random brick and then also some stacks of Duplo that you can see. I went in and I got the support for this corner in, so that is all good to go now. And so I added another plate up top here as well. So I just need to figure out how I'm going to work in this section and then how I'm going to transition between the green, the dark gray, and the light gray. Haven't figured that out yet, but that is next on my to-do list here. I also need to figure out the train track placement and then also the support underneath this to support the bridge. So I might have to redo some of this, but for the most part, the light gray is going to stay the same and definitely the dark gray as well. So that's where I'm at right now. I also need to add the detail on top as well because you can clearly see where the 2 different base plates are, obviously from the water, but also from up top here as well. So I need to go in and I need to add a bunch of details, but I need to finish this section up first. So let me go ahead, let me do that really quick, and I will be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and I filled in this top section here, and so now this is all looking pretty good. And I also filled in this green area in between the retaining wall and then the track segment that we had already done. And as you can see, it is a bunch more Duplo, and so that is pretty much that there. I don't know what to do with that section here where the blue and the lime green is. I need to figure that out though, because that is pretty much what's holding me back from completing the next couple steps here. But I think this is starting to shape up really nicely. And so if we take a step back here, you can actually see how it goes from the corner module here and kind of curves around here. And then the other module starts here and then we curve back around this way. I think that's looking really, really good. And I'm very happy with this. I think this looks great. But now I do need to probably get another piece of train track and then bring that over, figure out the dimensions of this, and then also what I'm going to do here. I don't know if I'm going to have arches coming off the retaining wall or if I'm just going to have one big support in the water here and then kind of go from there. I'm leaning towards the second option, having that just big thing in the middle of the water. That kind of makes sense to me right now. So I need to probably do some research and just look at pictures of them in real life and then kind of go from there. But I do want to figure this out first, though, whether it's going to be green or gray. I think not that it really matters for this area because it's going to get covered by the train track anyways. But this little 2x2 right here, I might just make gray and then kind of just call it a day. That seems like the easiest option right now. So I might end up just taking this 2x4 out and then swapping it with a 2x6. So that is what we're going to do by the sound of it. And then hopefully that works out decently well. And then we can figure out how to get the train track on here and then also how to blend in the retaining wall. Because at the moment, it looks good from here down, but from here up, it doesn't really look all that great. Okay, so some time has passed since that last clip, and I was kind of struggling with how to go about this, but I think I'm at a point now where I think this is starting to look how I'm imagining it. And so basically, this is the same retaining wall that it was before, and then there's a layer of plate, and then there's a second layer of plate on top of that, and then the train track sits on that, and then obviously this is going to be ballasted. Obviously, there is going to be supports under here. It's not just going to be floating like this, but it's going to look a lot better than this in the very near future. But for right now, this is exactly how I'm imagining it, and it's extremely strong too, which is good to see. And then so that is pretty much it. I mean, it doesn't look like a lot, but it did take me a while to get here. But I'm pretty happy with this. I think as much as I want to continue on this right now, what I think we're going to do next is work on the water just to give my brain a little bit of a break and then make that a little bit more complete looking, and then we can come back to this and continue working on this, because I would like to get all 3 track segments in before the end of the video. I think that would be pretty cool. And then we could also add some details up top here and then see how everything looks, because I think this has a lot of potential to look really good, and I have a few more ideas for this train track that I want to add in before I forget. All right, so I figured I would time-lapse this because I haven't given you guys a time-lapse in a while. So pretty much what I'm doing is I'm just laying down all the different shades of blue here, and I'm making my way around the corner. And I'm leaving the bottom left corner of the base plate open, and that is for the pillar for the train track. I'm still trying to figure out a design that I want, but once the plates are in, I'm starting to place all of the tiles down, and this just really helps tie everything together. I'm so happy with how this is looking. But with that being said, let's go check this out in real time, and I'll show you guys everything that we have done up until this point. All right, so this is what we've gotten up to so far, and so as you can see, everything has tiles on it, and so I think this looks really good. And as you can see, it's a nice continuous piece of rock work all the way through, and then also the beach is continuous, and then the water is now continuous as well. I think this looks great. I'm really, really happy with this. And like I said, the reason why I didn't do this section here was for that pillar for the train track here for the bridge. And so I have a couple of ideas for this. I did a little bit of research, and I'll put a picture on the screen of one of the examples that I was kind of looking at. I might go with this design, and I would love to, but I'm not totally sure how I would make this in Lego and make it look good. So that's my only thing holding me back from this design, but I think it looks good enough to try. And so that's what I think we're going to do. I'm still not totally sure about how to make it. I definitely don't have the pieces to make that happen. And so I'm going to save that for its own video. So make sure that you are subscribed, and also to click the notification bell so you don't miss when that video drops. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start the actual bridge portion itself, because I have a bridge from the old city layout that I think would look pretty good here. So let's take that apart, and then we can use it for pieces and try and make this area look pretty good. All right, so this is the bridge in question here. This was in the old city layout in the farm right next to the mountain, and I think this looks pretty good, and I would love to try and reuse this if I can. And so this is going to sit, obviously it's going to get rebuilt and modified and stuff like that, but it's going to sit about like this. So I think that is definitely a good idea. So I'm going to take this apart. It's pretty simple on how it's built, but I'm going to take it apart, and then I'm going to add another segment of track out here, and then also add some Technic under it as well, because it's definitely going to need it. But we're going to grab some Technic pieces, and then we are going to start building this bridge up here, and hopefully this is going to look really, really good. All right, so for those of you that didn't see that video where we had made that original train bridge before, I'm going to put that video on the top right so you guys can check that out. But the premise of it, to give you guys a little bit of a gist in case you forgot, is just some 2x plate on the bottom, and then some 1x3 jumpers on the top, and then the panels and bricks on the other side. And that is pretty much it. I would have loved to have used dark red plate, but I just don't have any, unfortunately. So I went with brown and dark brown, and then I kind of tied in some of those colors up top to make it look like the bridge is rusting a little bit. And so that is pretty cool. It's pretty simple, but it's very effective. And then this is what it looks like on the underside. And then so the jumpers just connect in, and then that is pretty much that. And I got the 1x3 jumpers off the pick-a-brick wall, so that's why I was using a bunch of those. And then the 1x2 jumpers in here were to allow room for supports. And so what in that old layout, I was just using little rock pieces, little gray slopes to kind of just support the bridge and make it look like it was floating, when in reality it was not. So that is why I use the white jumpers, but for the most part, it's just the 1x3 jumpers in black. And then that is pretty much that there. So I'm going to take the rest of this apart. I'm going to grab some more jumpers, and then we are going to get started with the actual bridge. All right, so I know this looks a little bit silly right now, just seeing how it's just floating and there's nothing here, but it is actually surprisingly strong. There's no Technic underneath it. I actually didn't do anything with that. I'm actually just using the same design. And then I'm going to put the pillar here, and then that should be enough for this whole section here. And then hopefully I will definitely be using Technic on that bridge to connect the two tables together. But just for this little section here, I think this is perfectly fine as it is. And so this is the old design that I had, which was a layer of plate, and then the panels, and then a layer of tile on top. And you can see how I'm thickening it up here. So it's 2 layers of plate, the panel, and then a layer of plate, and then a tile on top. So it's a little bit thicker than the old design. And also I'm spacing out the panels differently. So instead of the 1x1s and then the panel and then 1x2s, panel, 1x2s, panel, and so on, it's the same start, which is the 1x1s, the panel, 1x2s, and then 2 sets of panels, a 1x2, 2 sets of panels, and then that pattern is just going to continue on. And then that is pretty much that. So I just have to finish deconstructing this so I can finish up this section right here. And then this will be pretty much good to go, except for the insides here, which I'm probably just going to do the same thing that I did on the old bridge, which was literally just put some 1x2 plates and then the tiles on top. I did use some of the rail plates to try and hide some of the black, but I don't think it really matters. You can see here how the rail plates go almost right up to the edge of the jumper. So that was why I did it, but you can't do that all the way down. You can only do it for half of the distance. So I don't know if that's what I really want. It's not really the end of the world, but I'm probably still going to do it just because I'm just going to take this apart and then use the pieces here. So that's the easiest solution right now. So let me go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you guys the finished product for now, except for that one pillar up in the water here. Okay, so I went ahead and I finished up the bridge here. It's actually very sturdy, surprisingly, even without this support pillar in. I am going to be spending some time researching what curved slopes I could use to make that happen. And then also I'm probably going to be digitally designing it because I'm definitely going to have to buy pieces, and I don't want to have to buy 4 separate orders just to try and experiment with stuff. So I'm going to do that digitally, and then hopefully that will turn out pretty good. But the bridge is done here, as you can see. It has the rails in the middle to prevent trains from derailing. Not that the Lego trains need it, it's just a nice detail. And then as you can see, the jumpers, and then the panels on either side. And I think that looks really, really good. I'm very happy with that. And the retaining wall looks good, the rocks look good. And I also went ahead and I started to add some details up top here with the curved slopes, the quarter round tiles, as well as the cheese slopes, and then the couple 1x2 slopes. And I also added some foliage in there as well. I think that looks pretty good. And one other thing actually is that the Orient Express coach is here just as a stress test. And so as you can see, the Orient Express coach is on it, and there is no problems with the weight. Even if I push on it, it's not going anywhere. So that is really, really good to see. So on that note, that is going to wrap up today's video. I'm very happy with the progress that we made now. And now this entire corner of the expansion table is done. So I'm really happy with this. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like it and subscribe, as well as click the bell notification so you don't miss any future uploads. If you guys have any feedback for me on this train bridge and this area as a whole, and if you think I should use a different pillar design down here, make sure to drop a comment down below to let me know what you think. But once again, seriously, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.